to Happy Hour with Ruth and Roxy. I am Roxy.
I'm Ruth.
And welcome to summer. It is the first day of summer here as we're taping, June 21st.
You're looking pretty glamorous. I mean,
Am I?
you always look, pretty Lorelai Graham stylish.
You know,
Lorelai Gilmore stylish.
you're
from
the one
Gilmore
who keeps
Girls.
getting her hair cut, and whereas I
got
just
it
keep
cut.
forgetting.
I did get it cut.
It looks really good.
Oh, thank you. But she does. She looks a little glam today, and maybe that's because you have something to tell us.
I do.
Roxanne.
I have something exciting. So my the deal that I have mentioned a couple times obliquely has gone to signatures. So it's a real thing now.
Woo-hoo!
I was hopeful, but whenever you've done business of any kind any number of times, you know that there's all sorts of things that can happen at the last minute to kibosh a deal, and none of those happened. So
awesome. So she signed. Everybody signed. It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. So my book has been optioned, which doesn't mean it will get made into a TV series or a movie, but it means that they're working on it. So I'm hoping. So anyway, cheers me. And the name of the company is, I think I can say this now, they haven't set a count.
They haven't, and you've signed it.
We've signed it, yeah. It's all public. And there'll be an announcement. There'll be social media stuff's coming out, announcements coming out at some point. But it's Sullivan Entertainment, who they're based out of Ottawa, and they did
Are they in Toronto?
Toronto, maybe.
Yeah, Toronto. I think.
Okay, Toronto. Yeah, Ontario. Ontario and Ottawa, to me. In my brain, it's the same thing.
She's from the West Coast.
Yeah.
But they're really good. They did Anne of Green Gables.
Anne of Green Gables, Anne of Avonlea. They've done a lot of stuff.
They have a big reputation for integrity and for for being a good team that cares.
Mm-hmm. So if any big name actor, producer, developers out there looking for a project that they want to back, talk to Sullivan, please. I'd love that.
Yes, but yay!
So that's out of the way. What are we drinking today, Ruth?
What are we drinking today, Roxanne?
Okay. So what are we drinking today? Because we had friends over earlier today, and so
as in her and her husband, not me, the podcast wife, the husband,
right.
the podcast husband. Yeah.
So we opened a bottle of Freixenet Brut.
So it's like a Spanish Prosecco-y thing.
Yeah,
it's bubbles.
We had mimosas, so we're finishing that off. It's not quite as good as our usual Stoneboat bubbles.
No, our Stoneboat is pretty good.
But we do like
But we don't waste
celebrate.
things.
We don't waste things. Yeah.
It's bubbles, and we needed bubbles.
Mm-hmm. We needed bubbles. So we'll move on to something else after these glasses.
We will.
Yeah.
We will. So what do we want to talk about today? So I think one of the things we want to talk about maybe is that we just got some news that some really dear friends of ours are moving from our community.
I'm a little gutted.
Yeah.
I'm a little gutted by this, I have to say.
So our friends Philip and Cindy, and Philip is a chef, and Cindy is a magical support to a chef, which I kind of think, she's a chef too, but she just doesn't,
She's a baker.
And she's certainly a sous chef and makes everything work. And honestly, we had a thing here. They are delightful, and they're interesting, and they're charming, and they're kind, and they're funny, and they're generous. And they used to do here, it's called the long table dinner, and they would do this beautiful long table dinner for 100 people.
Yeah.
And it was to raise money for the community. It's a personal loss for us, but it's a loss for this community.
It's a huge loss for the community because
they're fabulous.
They contributed so much. They had so much energy.
She was president of student council.
Have the energy. She
was president of Strata Council.
Yeah.
And then she was on council again. He worked on the projects committee and got lots done here. Plus, they did the long table dinner to help raise money for the community. And honestly, they are a great example of they are good friends to the community and good friends to their friends, and they're good neighbors.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they're just, maybe one day we'll get them to come on before they move, because they are lovely humans. So here's to Philip and Cindy. We're going to miss you.
We're going to miss you.
Yeah.
Dearly.
Yes.
But you know what? You have to do what's right for you. And every life is different, and you've got so many variables that affect what you can do and when you can do it and where you can do it.
Yeah. And you have to do, there's always a trade-off, right? Like, and I think maybe that's a good conversation to have, because an example I have in my life is that we've been planning out some trips, because some of the bigger trips we have to think about, we have to get dog sitter. Oh, maybe that's a wish.
Oh, it's a fluff. Yeah.
But you have to get dog sitters. You have to make sure that the dog sitter person who is fabulous is available. You have to make sure it's okay with work and that stuff. So I've been planning trips. And my challenge is we can only go on so many because we're working, and at some point clients are going to go like, what the hell, man? But the other side is then you have to make choices about where you want to go, right? And so you're always giving up something to get something, right? And I think that's with them, that's a life lesson that, you know, I'm still learning and having a hard time with it, right? Is like every choice you make, the choice you make to do something or have something or be something means there's a choice you decided not to do something or have something or be something, right?
Exactly. Every decision that you make for something is a decision against something else.
Yeah.
And that's a really good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only is it what do you want, what are you willing to give up to get it?
Yeah.
And you know, we used to hear a little bit about that when Paul and I first started AHA, our communications agency, and people were like, why are you working on a weekend? How come you work early in the morning when we're on vacation? And we were willing to give up some of that to build a company so that now, you know, we get to take Fridays off. And now we get to go on these really great trips. And now we know that we will, you know, knock on wood, have a healthy retirement, right? Kind of thing. And I think that's just it. But back then, I don't think we realized what we didn't feel like we were giving up anything, although I think some maybe in our lives thought we were.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it'd be like, hey, we'll come meet you at noon to go to the pool or to the lake or to do whatever. And for them, maybe they were feeling like without having a choice, they had to give up time with us.
Right.
Right. So that's just an interesting thing that sometimes what's being given up actually isn't yours, but you're the catalyst for it, right?
Might be some, and I've heard that. I've heard that from my kids. I've heard that from my friend Diane too. That, you know, oh, we don't see you. That how much are you working? Oh, are you working? You want to spend time with your grandkids though, Mom, don't you? And oh, when can you come golf with us, Rox? I'm like, golf, but I will do it. I will golf with Dave and Diane and my husband. Yeah, but I'm not going to do it every week. They're going to do it every week. I'll probably do it once a month with them. Right. You know, because I love my work.
Yeah. So well, and that's part of it. But it is an interesting thing. And you know, I think thinking about Philip and Cindy moving and stuff, it makes you realize. And our friend Beth, that's a big supporter of the podcast, she just recently moved, and certainly I bet you she would have something to weigh in on this, because you do, right? Every decision you make has a ripple effect to other things that didn't get to come along with you. Yeah, it's interesting. But
how does the song go? Every new beginning is some other beginning's end. Right. I don't know where that's from.
And then there's another one, I think it's Garth Brooks, and it's like, thank God for unanswered prayers, because sometimes you think you want something and you really don't, man.
Yeah, that is very true.
But yeah,
that is very true. That would be a fun thing to talk about, things that you really, really, really wanted, or you really, really wished would happen, and then you found out later that it would have been the worst thing for you.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a good. Yeah, it would have been a good thing. Yeah, nope, absolutely. So
I thought of having 4 children for a while.
Did you?
I did not have 4 children.
You did not,
but I thought about it. So I think it's very good that I did not have 4 children.
It's a lot of children.
A lot of children. Yes. I don't think my current children would have appreciated that.
Okay, so I have a couple of things to talk about that are more lighthearted, because I think we've dug into some serious stuff lately. Yeah. So one of them is, there's a Facebook group, and we will put the link up, and it's called the Dull Women's. The Dull Women's. Oh my God, the Dull Women's Club, and they have a Dull Men's Club, and I think they have a Dull People's Club too, and I may be members of all of them. But there was one on there, and they're really funny because they put things up. And I've only been following it probably for 6 months or a year maybe, so I don't quite understand where it started. But everybody puts their shoe size and says something about a banana, or has a banana in the picture. And it's like the Dull Women. It's a weird thing. Like,
it's very quirky.
It is quirky. But there was this woman that came in, and I feel bad because I actually didn't get her name, but we will put a link up to it. And she was, she lost several people in her life, including her husband of 42 years. Then she said she cried for a year and then realized that the life lesson, if a bad thing can happen at any time without warning, aim your focus at right now. So she figured out what she wanted to do. So she loves steam engines, so she applied for a job on a steam locomotive, and at age 76, she's training to be a steam locomotive fire person.
No way.
And last week she had her first 10-hour training, and so she was just talking about, you know, so we can charge into the world trying everything, or simply sit quietly and watch it go by. And so she just said, you know, I had these tragedies happen, but I'm going to figure out for my final chapters what do I want to be when I grow up.
I love
right?
that.
Isn't that amazing?
I love that.
And I mean, and the other good thing about that, this is one of those pages that is full of support and love. You never get really cranky people on there, like sometimes. And so everybody was just like, you're such an inspiration, which must have, again, given her more energy, right?
Oh, totally.
And who knows who it inspired.
I just love that. So these friends of ours that we had brunch with this morning, Dave and Diane. Diane will be on this podcast one day,
good.
way or she doesn't know it yet.
Oh, she hasn't agreed to it.
She hasn't even watched us yet. So no, but I will get her on one day. But she just told me that she is taking this winter. She's been taking a class like high school, chemistry and physics.
Oh my gosh.
And she wants to continue. She's going to get her high school chemistry and physics because she had other focuses at the time.
Yep.
At that time, she's my age, so high school
22.
is like 10 or 12 years in the past. So, I just love that.
That's awesome.
And that is so her.
But
that's
also
her.
not. Those are like one
those
thing
are hard
for
classes.
us to like figure out how to do a podcast because this is fun. But
Yeah.
those are not easy. Holy man.
I know.
That's great.
But if you watch shows like Three Body Problem, or I don't know if there's a chemistry, The Big Bang Theory, they're physicists mostly, and Three Body Problem is about physicists as well. Suddenly they're cool. Okay, physicists were, I mean, they're nerdy cool.
Yeah, nerdy cool.
Because they were never cool, and I hated physics in high school, and I did all the sciences because you have to if you're doing anything healthcare related. And I'm like, physics, just like, oh, shoot me now. But now, quantum physics,
right.
That stuff's interesting.
And if you think about the bigger scientists that we would know the names of, right? Like, I mean, Einstein and Stephen Hawking and a whole bunch of people like that. In fact, all of these people believed in some, I don't want to say higher power, but something, some energy, right? Like they not church.
They knew enough about the universe to know that we don't know everything about the universe.
But that's just it. And they believed in something, not the religion, not the human constructed religion, male constructed, patriarchy constructed for the most part religion. But they knew enough something. And I'm fortunate enough to work with a group of scientists now that are in biotech. And there is a lot of chemists on there because part of some of the stuff they do, right?
Oh,
and they're fascinating. But honestly, you should see their notebooks, right? Like my notebook is a bunch of scribbled words, and you see their notebooks, and there's these little charts and graphs, and they're like works of art, and like they leave them like lying open while you're having a chat, and it's like, what's that? And it's like, oh, I just had to make some notes about whatever that we're doing, blah blah blah. Then it gets complicated.
It's the formula for aspirin.
Yeah, but it's like, but you look and it like, it's the way their brains works fascinates me. Okay, so we have that one. I also have a guy. There's a thing, and we'll put a link up to this. It's Humans in Melbourne, and it's kind of a takeoff of Humans of New York, which I don't know if anybody's seen. Because Humans of New York has beautiful stories about human resilience and love and
they're very
overcoming
gritty photographs and beautiful stories
and
to go
big
with them.
stories, right? About people with their lives been shattered, and yet they find a way to get through, or honestly sometimes they just accept who they are, right? Like it's really good. But the humans, he apparently there's a guy in Melbourne that walks around and he's got a big paper mache carrot, like it's huge, right? Like a big Bugs Bunny kind of thing. And so at first apparently he bought a prop. It was a turnip. This fellow who's the senior and he lives on a disability income. But so at first he bought that turnip for something, and he was walking the street and saw the smiles. So he went and got stuff, and he had an octopus and he had something else, and then he made a carrot, and he said the carrot made people the happiest. So he does this, and he said the post I saw was he was sitting at home watching something, and he was like, no, I should go out, because he does it to make people smile, right? He's nothing. And he said sometimes he'll go to really, really tense protests, and quite often it creates conversation and people talk, right?
Wow.
But it's a really cool thing. Like he just does this and you know what it's like when you're like we've done it here. We're going to somebody's house and maybe we're carrying a cake. Everybody talks to you.
Oh, if you're carrying a cake, everyone talks to you.
But like it's just like one of those where it's like, here's this person, he doesn't know what the ripple effect of what he's just done is, right?
Yes.
Like there's this huge thing. He might have got two people from opposite sides to talk. He might have made somebody laugh who was having the worst day and thought maybe there was no going forward for them. right?
Such an interesting idea, because I think this is a bit of a tangent, but we're kind of talking about social props, right? Yep. So for people like you and me who have a certain amount of social anxiety,
a certain amount,
a certain amount,
we've lot. She's better.
Oh, I have a huge amount too, but I have learned coping skills. I mean, 6 decades teaches you a few things, right? And also,
I've only got 2.5 decades, so that's exactly why. Also, there are birds here, so
they will be freaking out. But props are huge. So when I was having babies, what I loved was, I've got the baby. Sorry, gotta go feed the baby. Oh, I gotta hold the baby. Oh, hi, how are you doing? Oh, here's my baby. Like my baby.
That's why she wanted a fourth baby, man.
Yeah. I was like, oh no, I have to be myself again. But that's a baby true. Is a huge thing. Dogs, pets.
Cooking.
Pets are a huge. Cooking, right? When you have people over, and you're really good at this. You've always got a job for yourself. You're busy. You have a task, a role. Alcohol or a beverage of any kind. It doesn't have to be alcohol. I have people in my life who are smokers, and they say a cigarette is the same thing. Most people who smoke, according to one trusted source, have social anxiety, but they know that they can leave whatever.
Right. They have a reason to leave.
They have a reason to leave, and when they go out, they will find someone else who has the same kind of anxiety they do, and they will share it.
And it's like a secret code.
They'll feel better. It's a secret code. So this guy's is a carrot. He might not have this may not be his issue at all, but he's accomplishing something between other people around him.
Right. No, and that's just it. And a social prop is really, that's I think a good way to describe it is exactly. And when you think about that, it is one of those things. So when we travel, I tend to take little maple syrups and little sea salt, right? And usually, especially if we're going to restaurants and you get to talk to the chef, or we're going like in Rome, and I did it in Paris and Kenya too, but we did it this time in Rome and Greece and stuff. And when you give them to people, so it's an easy in to make somebody feel good, which I like to do, but also it's an easy in to take it from this transactional. Maybe you're in the restaurant and you're paying, but you want to acknowledge the chef. You know what I mean? And it's an easy thing. Instead of like, oh, chef, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, I have a little present for you, right? For me, it's a much easier. And also, they can't get it there, so they're delighted, right? Or that somebody thought to bring it. And it's like the guy with the carrot. Like, that would also positively disrupt your day, right? If you saw a guy with you're not expecting a guy with a carrot to come around.
No kidding. Yeah. So is that what you're getting next?
A carrot?
Yeah. To walk around the neighborhood. Okay, so
a paper mache carrot wouldn't be that hard to make. Just saying.
That would be a fun project. But that's okay. So think about the number of times that we stop and talk to people when we're walking the dogs, because we're walking the dogs. Yeah. And it's like, do you want to go say hi to Sasha? Shelby and Sasha are there. Yeah. Oh, there's Daisy with Ian and Laura. Yeah. Let's go say hi to Daisy, right? And I mean, I know the names of the dogs, and it's like, oh, that's Fluffy's owner. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what his name is. Fluffy's dad.
We definitely know dogs better.
Yeah, and it's just a nice way to connect. As long as your dogs aren't jerks like mine sometimes.
Oh yeah, mine too. Mine's a brat.
But that's also part of it. You know?
No, well, and that's just it. But I think a social prop is a good way, because in many ways that's whether it is alcohol or not.
Having something in your hand,
right?
Something in your hand. Something for me. It's a thing that I can go and say, oh, can I'm not very good at this yet, but, do you need more wine? Usually it's Ruth saying, Roxy, wine, where's the wine? But
barky dogs.
It gives you a task.
Yep.
Right?
No, it does. And that's exactly.
Like we had people over today, which is for us, throughout our marriage, it's always been like, we're having people over. This is the time for the biggest fight of our month. Because it's what you do, It's like, I'm super stressed about this and whatever. But so my husband's task that he's chosen, and he's good at it, is making coffee. So he makes his French press coffee, and he's like, don't touch it. Here's my coffee. I've got it all set up. It's all right, and that's his way of releasing his anxiety, but also doing something.
Right.
For someone
contributing
else, right?
into the thing. No,
exactly.
that's exactly. Now they're barking at butterflies. Just saying.
Hey,
it was a butterfly.
Yeah, I saw it.
But yes, it's okay. That's what happens, at this
is
down
literally
home.
What
this is our life.
They chase butterflies.
Okay. So
what's next?
what's next is, let's talk about learning new things.
All right.
Like you just talked about Diane learning new things.
I'm prepared.
Pizza oven, Roxanne. We're both learning it.
Oven. Yes, very much.
but so I was thinking about it the other day because I was thinking about what are all the things you do as you age that keeps your mind sharp, right? And I mean, all of us, like Paul and I and Ray and Roxanne, we're all readers, and we like that kind of stuff, and I think that's always really good. But sometimes, especially at night, if I'm trying to read, I'm like 3 pages in and I'm nodding off. But like I was thinking about.
Hi, Bob.
I mean, one of the things I will do sometimes. You want to come up here, Scruffy? Come on, you want to come up? Okay, Scruffy wants to come visit. This one's for you, there, Mrs. Jackie. But like some would be cooking things I've never tried before, right? Like that's one thing. But then doing the pizza oven has been really interesting for us because it's different ingredients. Like we never put pistachios on pizza until we got the pizza oven, or mortadella.
Pistachio and mortadella and burrata. Is that what we did?
Yes.
Best combo ever.
And also, just for the record, mortadella is like bologna.
It's bologna.
Right?
Why does it taste so
delicious.
Good? Why is it so? Is bologna with nuts ground up in it?
Yeah, and more fat.
My son-in-law will correct me about whatever's in it. I gotta let my dog in.
Okay, she's going there. So, but in thinking about that, I thought about the podcast and Roxanne recently. As you can see, there's been an up-leveling of the editing, right, for the podcast. For the video portion of the podcast, there's been an up level, and it's because she embraced that and she's been putting in sound effects and special things.
That is so much fun.
Right? But
I love that.
But it's an interesting thing to see because I think at a certain age, you're in a little bit of a routine, but you also do the things you like. He just sighed like it's like life is so hard for this little guy that sleeps and eats and chases me around the house. Your little freeloader.
He has a lot of work to do keeping you sane, Ruth. This is a big job.
That's true. As my social prop.
A lot of responsibility.
As my social prop.
Yeah.
But I was thinking.
Work harder, Scruffy.
I know, hey, because I'm not sane. We all know this. We all know this. But look, he seems to be very happy.
Oh, he's very proud. Yes. He's watching his mama.
Yeah, well, he's watching himself, I think. He's a little bit of a narcissist, I think. Hey, buddy, but he does have a certain love of his life here in the community.
Yep.
That, as soon as we walk by her house, he starts to cry. I know. I love her. Why can't I live with her? She should let me in the house so I can murder her husband. But thinking about doing new things, and it can be really scary. Like the first time we tried to turn that pizza oven on, it was scary.
Well,
it's still scary.
Your husband did lose all of the hair on his forearm.
Okay, but he's a boy.
Absolutely, but the possibility was there, and we both knew it.
He also put his arm right in.
He did. That's true. I am so grateful for him that he was willing to do the first experiment for us. He sacrificed so that we could keep our eyebrows. But it's one thing to decide you're going to go and get some cosmetic work done on your eyebrows. It's another thing to have to.
Yes, go
and get cosmetic reparation.
But think about the things. Like, what are the things? And we'd like to hear from you. Is what are the things that you've taken on a little bit later in life? Like I think, for example. So I think my sister probably always gardened, but now like they moved into this house. They're in Nanaimo on Vancouver Island, and she's got like 2 cherry trees. Like she said she still has half a freezer full of frozen tomatoes from last year because like she's like, so she took out all her grass and it's all either good plants or it's vegetables and fruits. So yes,
lovely.
But here's something that she's dug into. Like some people, just like your husband in golf.
Mm-hmm.
See, our husbands, our husbands.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Our husbands like golf, and at this stage of our lives, they are digging into it even more than they did before, which is okay with us. Just saying,
it is. Yeah, we're happy with it.
But yeah, so what are the things for you? Certainly, the video editing and that kind of thing has been something.
Yeah.
And what else?
Well, it's only been in the last 5 years that I've really dug into editing. So fiction
That's
editing
true,
for me.
Actually.
So yeah, I mean, I went back to school for that, and
also corporate editing.
And corporate editing, yeah, which is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
And yet also within that same frame. So I'm thinking of doing the plain language course.
I'd like to do that one too.
I'm a dabbler. I dabble in a lot of things. You guys know this about me. I dabble in watercolors and other painting, dabble in gardening.
Okay, when she says
everything dies.
She's like one of those people, oh, I dabble. And it's like, yeah, she's really good at all the things she dabbles in. Like, no. I dabble in stuff, and it's like, well, that was an abject failure.
It wasn't a failure. It was a thing that you learned that you either then are like, oh, I love that, or oh, not for me. You still learn something from it, right?
Do you really think I learn anything from anything?
You learn stuff all the time.
I tried to make sourdough.
Your sourdough is just fine. You don't have the passion.
Wasn't good enough. Also, it's a pain in the neck.
No, it's not. It's easy. But
I didn't have kids for a reason, because I probably would have forgot to feed them. So like the sourdough, you got to do this, and then all of a sudden it was like, my grocery bill's really high, and it's because I was giving my sourdough all the flour.
Yeah, you do end up buying a lot of flour.
But it was fun to do it, and I've had fun doing other things. Like I just recently learned how to make, what the heck was it? Oh, creme brulee.
Oh,
right?
And your creme brulee is amazing.
Which really intimidated. Like the more the finer desserts, I guess, because
right. The more technical.
Yeah. Is because I get distracted, and sometimes I drink when I'm cooking. But it is an interesting thing, because I keep seeing all these things about how as you age, your brain is less elastic and it's harder to learn things and stuff. And I haven't yet found that. It doesn't mean I'm doing it all well, but what I put my mind to, I can learn,
mm-hmm,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I don't put my mind to is pretty much, which we will see when my garden comes up, because Paul, my husband, and Roxanne are really good gardeners, and Roxanne's out, and we both had zucchini seeds, and she's putting one in each hole, and I just dug a big swath and threw it in. And so we'll see if that works.
I saved some seeds for the inevitable failure so I can restart.
See, not me. I just was like, here's a big scraping. I threw all the seeds in and then put it all over it again.
We'll be eating zucchini bread until Christmas.
Forever. I put in a lot of packages of zucchini.
Zucchini's so good.
Yeah.
Zucchini's so good. But it's fun. So I have always loved school. I didn't like the social aspect of school when I was a kid. During parts of it, I was super nervous, don't call on me, I don't know the answer. But I always knew the answer, and then no one knew. So I always kind of looked
like a brainiac,
dumber than I was, because I never
answered.
But I'll say that I really like learning. So even after, once I had kids at home, I was like, oh, I can't go to school full time, but I'm going to do some night classes. That's how I started writing. I took a night class on how to get published. Then it was, I'm gonna take a course in. I did a course in tax preparation. Yep, I had a 1-year-old, and I was pregnant with our second one, and I decided to learn about taxes. I know, so random, but it was through H&R Block. I worked for one season doing taxes, and I paid for our move back west.
Right. Well, but that's
so yeah. And now I see a T4 and I'm like, hello, old friend. I remember you.
You're funny.
But it used to be when you would get the community college catalogs in the mail every summer, spring or summer, they would come. I would pour through those, and I would be marking out.
I did that. I
want to do
that.
the floral arranging.
Yeah.
Ooh, wait, jujitsu for beginners. Oh, all these things.
It was fun when you used to get those, right?
I love those.
And now I think they're all online, so there's less of a twig to that it's happening, right?
It doesn't feel as exciting. However, here's the thing. Okay, so so the editing course that I did was through. No, I.
Oh, okay.
Well, not yet. But was Simon Fraser University in Burnaby, I guess.
We'll put a link to that.
Yeah, I'm going to jot that down. That's where I did my editing course. But as I was perusing through all of the things that are related to that, because there's just a ton of them, they have a series that is especially for seniors. I don't know exactly what the criteria is for that. I think it's 65 and up, but I'm not sure.
It's 22 and up.
Correct. We do not qualify, absolutely, in no way. And here's the kind of things that they had. Learn to interpret the sound of whale songs. You can take a course in that. Learn about the terracotta warriors in ancient China. Like classes that you can.
That's cool.
And they're not class. You're not going to get a job in terracotta warrior knowledge, but you're learning something that's super interesting.
It's really cool.
I mean, whale songs? Yes,
that's really cool.
So I just thought that was so neat that they had specific things that are just interest-based,
yeah.
right?
So there's actually, and I can't remember, I think it might be Harvard, but they have an entire, and I think it's a part-time program, but it's about happiness, and you can take them for free. And I'm pretty, I'll look it up. If it's not Harvard, we'll put the link to what it is. But let me just go back to something saying what you're taking on new things. So let's talk about Roxanne way back in the day when she's got kids at home, and she had always been a reader and wrote and was artistic and creative, but she decided she was going to write, right? Without a specific education in that background, without anybody to open doors, like nobody else in your family.
Oh God,
right?
no.
So you started to learn, and then you started to take that and put it out there, and you started and you built it up to the point where you just sold a book to be optioned for a television show or a movie, right? Like, so think about that you might think, I'm interested in this, I'm going to give it a try. Look at where that ended up, Roxanne.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's a huge accomplishment, right?
And I'll just say, I follow a lot of writers groups, and I just saw a post from somebody on one of them recently that was talking about how hard it is. And his post was all about, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been trying to get traction. I'm trying to write. I'm trying to follow all the rules, and I just can't. I can't make a go of it. Yeah. What is wrong? And the number of responses that came in that were basically saying, this is normal. Like, this is normal. This is really, really hard. This is a really hard road that you've chosen. If you love it, keep going. If you don't love it, why are you torturing yourself? But if you love it, keep going. You will find a way. The writers that succeed they're just the ones that didn't stop. That's all. That's all.
The talented ones that didn't stop.
But the talent has to be there.
And that you've honed your craft in. But I think, first of all, I think it's nice when you have and a lot of writers, not all communications people or PR people, I have to say, but many of them, I know certainly in my world they are. But there's a lot of people, there are a lot of groups that will support you and lift you up. And I'm seeing it a lot in the sort of the writers, it's writers that work for magazines and do that kind of stuff, but it's also writers that, do kind of brand journalism for companies. And they're all like really worried about AI, and I don't blame them.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But the other thing is, and perhaps AI will get better. I think AI, for me, AI is really good giving me prompts. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like I'll say if I'm doing something about a certain industry, it's like, what are the 5 most important trends in this industry? Just to get an idea of it helps. But I also know that, I've seen, because sometimes people give us stuff because we'll rewrite it for some clients and they give it to us and it's like, this is written by AI, I just start over. Because first of all, you can't trust AI. Yeah. Right? They don't always give you the facts, but also it's poorly written and there's no soul to it.
It's always derivative.
Well, and it's also because it's actually
definition.
It's actually plagiarism.
It is
right?
plagiarism.
In my opinion. Right?
Well, it is plagiarism. It's plagiarism on a mass scale. Yeah. And it's learned, like they call it generative AI, right, versus iterative AI or something. I'm not sure, but
it is
it's a real challenge.
And now there's all these risks. So, but it is one of those things where, especially in the true arts, you have to love it, or else it's going to break you, right? Like the other thing is you have to because you have to keep working at it, and it's the same as our little agency. I mean, one of the reasons that we're not thinking about retirement and stuff is partly because I'd get in trouble with day drinking and online shopping and making Roxanne go to Vegas with me and stuff. But the other side of that is it took so long to build up here. Yeah. Where we want to enjoy the fruits of our labor, because now we get cool projects and it's interesting.
This is the thing, and so for anybody who's in the arts or looking at it, please understand that this is a long game. This is a long game. Some would call it a long con, but no, not me. This is a long, and my husband, bless his heart, he said this to me so many years ago. He's like, your main power, your biggest earning years, the power, the success of your career is going to come after I'm retired. Yep. And he knew this. And
I hate it when he's right.
I really hate it. So for, however many years, decades, I sat around going, I'm a writer. Oh, do you have anything in stores? Not right now. Well, I've heard of you? No, probably not. Do you have anything No. But I'm still a writer, and I'm still writing stuff. And
how many books have you written?
30 now. So,
like,
well,
okay.
30 as soon as I finish the one I haven't started yet. So 29.
She told me the other day, I went away in December and we didn't go together. And she was like, and I wrote, I was able to sit and write. And it's like, you just need to, now that this is sold, again. She just needs to pay for me to go on vacation without her though, which is less fun.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
But I think there's that other thing of owning it. Like I also remember being on some group somewhere and somebody was like, well, I'd like to tell people I'm a writer, but I've never been published. And somebody was like, why can't you just say you're a writer? Do you write?
You don't say you're a published writer.
No, and or you don't say I make a living as a writer. No, right? Yeah. But also it kind of goes back to that. I don't think fake it till you make it is not the right way to say it. But sometimes you have to believe you're doing it before you're actually doing it because and I know it sounds woo-woo, but I think that energy attracts it. Also, if you think you're a writer, you're going to say, I'm going to apply for this job. I'm going to apply for this gig. If you don't think you're a writer, you're going to be like, I'm not qualified.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
If you think you're a writer, you're going to meet your deadline.
Well, and
if you don't, and if you don't meet your deadline, you won't be a writer for long.
No, well, that's just it. But and the other side is, you're also not going to step into these opportunities. I can remember, getting a call to do something, and it was like, why are they giving me this job? Like, oh my God, and my friend Della, who has been an amazing mentor, is just like, are you kidding me? You've got this, like what? And it's like, well, I've never done it before. And she's like, but you've done every element of it. You just haven't done it all in once. Or you've gone through the courses to do this, or that's actually a natural ability of yours. Like the other thing is we don't have and I think especially when it comes to the arts, because sometimes it doesn't get paid as well as it should, because honestly, so here's my biggest thing that made people understand more is when we went into lockdown and COVID.
Oh yeah.
And all the people that are like, defund the arts, and why do these people get paid so much? You know what we all turn to? We all turn to the arts. We turn to paintings and sculptures and some of the museums that did like virtual tours online. Yeah. And we listened to music and we watched movies.
Books were huge during that time.
The arts saved us.
So it was interesting. So that
science saved us, but the arts made it bearable.
But that was me. Art saved our humanity and it saved our minds. Exactly. Yeah. And things like we were watching.
I can't get this out or I'd show you, but it's Kim Crawford's Sauvignon Blanc, just so you know.
Yeah, it's pretty delightful.
It is. I like it when her glass is empty at the same time as mine, because otherwise, somebody the other day was like, "You drink twice as much as Roxanne," and it was like, I've had a lot more practice, man.
That's true.
But it's true, right? Like everybody
we absolutely turned to the arts. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. To save our souls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that's just it. But I think if anybody has something, but it also goes back to what we talked about in one of the early podcasts. You don't have to be great at it if you enjoy it.
No. I wrote down imposter syndrome here because that's basically what you were talking about. I don't believe I can do it, therefore I can't do it. When in fact, as Della told you, you had all the skills. You had the natural ability. You had the training. You just hadn't done it. You just didn't believe you could do it yet.
Right. Well, that's just it. And I think there are different layers of it. Like early on, there were certainly times, because now, we've done and you've done it with us for some of them, like these big commissions of inquiry reports and stuff. And had that come to me in the first 5 years, I couldn't have done that. Right? Like, but the first 5 years, I certainly could write communications plans and write this and do all these things. But it is an interesting thing that as your experience and confidence grows, and now, every once in a while we get somebody coming to us and they want us to do, and it's really technical, and that's not. It's first of all, it's boring, right? Yeah. And so, unless they're going to pay us a whack load of money, I don't want to do boring anymore.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where it's like, no, because that's not really in our wheelhouse, and also I don't want to hold something up by having to learn more on the side. But also I don't enjoy technical writing, right? Yeah. Like lots of people, like there are people that have engineer minds that like technical writing.
Yeah. Yeah, that is not my deal either. That's really interesting, because like what Della did for you, you passed on and did for me. Because when I started editing before we met.
Yep.
Because Jane Porter, one of my publishers and a dear friend, asked me if I would edit one of the novels for one of her authors, and I said, you know that I've never done that before, right? And she said, well, you know, I know what you're like. I know how you work. I know that you're really kind and have a passion for mentoring new writers. Why don't you try it? I tried it, loved it, decided to get training. For me, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And that's when we met. And you kept asking me, so where are you at in your training? And then you're like, hey, do you think you might want to kind of work with us for a bit? And I said, you know, I don't know how to do this, right? And you're like,
really good at
no, you do. Yep. You're fine. But you, I mean, for your own protection, you did your due diligence and you looked at a bunch of my work, and so you knew before I knew.
But I also,
Della knew before you knew.
But I watched your integrity and I watched your ethics, and I did all this because we get you know a fair amount of people coming saying, hey, do you have work? Right, because it can be tough out there, right? And now that we've built a reputation, it's a little, again, knock on wood, easier for us. But it's one of those where it's also like, especially the big projects like the commissions and the big reports and some of the stuff, is what you don't want is somebody halfway through to go, this is too hard, right? And because the other side is the technical skills of editing. If you were Word. If words are your thing, you can learn the technical skills of editing, and either you'll be really good at technical editing or fiction at, you know what I mean. You happen
Copy
to be good at you know what I mean. You're good across the board at things, but it's also like my biggest worry when I bring somebody on is especially if it's a big project, is I'm laying my reputation down with you. And so if all of a sudden in the middle of it, and we've kind of counted on, this is our team and this is, and we work pretty lean, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like if somebody was like, yeah, I'm out because, you know, I'm going to go drink tequila tonight. It would be like, well, it would mess and I mean, I'm willing to take the hit and work 24 hours if I have to, because we're not going to let the client down. But it also worries me what it does to the rest of the team, right?
Yeah.
Right, and that's part of it. But the other thing is you are exceptional, and you filled the gap we had because I have a certain level of editing that tends to be messaging and how it's going to be stuff, and then you are more at the language, but also deep, like it's a deep dive that you do, and then Lori and Paul are really good at
the details,
you know,
man,
like and repetition or all of it, and then we all get a look for copy editing to be like, actually you're better at active voice than I am. I'm always putting things in passive voice, which is really funny.
But that's so interesting because that's a fiction nonfiction thing, right? Fiction is all about active voice all the time, and most legal stuff is almost all written completely in passive voice, right? Anyway,
but it is a thing, because I think there's a shift in corporate writing now, and I'm always struggling with it. And what happens, and also, I mean, I grew up at McLean's and other places where there's a specific style, right? And so, and McLean's would absolutely be active voice, but it was also like you should have been able to look through every article and if there was no byline, think it was written by the same person, because it was supposed to be consistent and opinion neutral.
The house style was very, very specific. And and you want to strip your personal voice. It needs to be McLean's voice.
No, that's exactly,
not the writer's
voice. And which I have to say, a lot of like the commission reports we do is like that to a certain extent. The commissioner certainly has a voice, but like government stuff that we do is absolutely like that, right? And but it is an interesting thing, because then you get to write something a little creative, you know, like you do maybe a case study, or you do a profile on somebody, and it's kind of like you almost feel guilty for editorializing. Right. But it isn't. But all to go back to this is that there is no way, given you know that my background and upbringing, that I should be in the position I am now, but yet I am, because I persevered. Like, honestly, so I heard Anthony Fauci, who was the chief medical officer in the U.S. during the pandemic and stuff, he was on an interview, because he just has a book out, and I heard him say to the host, he is like, I'm a worker, I'm not a leader, I just want to put my head down, and I'm a workhorse, right? I am not, my writing's never going to win awards, it's never going to, but it will. It's good and it's solid and you can count on me. And once I accepted that I was never going to win a Pulitzer Prize or something like that, it was like, oh, I kind of like it here.
There's a lot of freedom in that.
Well, I like it amongst the dandelions.
You know, there's a certain, I had this thought too, about the book that I just finished that will come out in August. We've discussed this on the podcast earlier, and about the abortion conversation. So it ended up it had to come out of the book. The publisher was just uncomfortable with what the ramifications might be for the readership with that. And I was fine, but my thinking going in, and they actually argued me out of it, I said, I'm not a big name. I don't make a lot of money for you guys. I have my very dedicated, rabid, small group of followers that read everything that I write.
Yep.
But they're a small group, and they're kind people. So I'm not worried. And so, not being a super household New York Times best-selling name means that I have the freedom to kind of just do whatever I want.
Right.
So that's kind of where I look at that.
Yep.
And like, you know, when you don't have to worry, like, I will never be in the can lit literati, right? It's just not the kind of writing I do. But because of that, I'm allowed to do certain things.
Right, there's
that
freedoms
they
that come
can't
with it.
do, right? There's freedoms that come with that. So
also, but she might become an Emmy Award winning.
That'd be great,
right?
That'd be great.
But sort of to go back, because tangents. But to go back to it is I really do think, like, at some point everybody who's doing the thing that you're looking at going, I'd like to do that, started as a beginner.
Yeah.
Right. Like the other thing is when you take away all the shiny, look at how good they are, and look at either what they're making or what they've accomplished or whatever, you take away all of that, they all started in the same place you're going to start, right? And sometimes, depending on where your life is, you might have to work a bit harder to get the things done, like you with kids, right? But if you want to do it and see what comes of it. And also remember, it doesn't have to be something that, unless you want it to, makes you money, gets you awards, changes everything. It could do it for the pleasure of it.
So my daughter Megan was out, I don't know, a couple of months ago visiting, and we just had this great conversation. She's an artist. She makes her career is in UX UI, so user experience, user interface software stuff, for websites. And she was telling me about her side project, though, is she has an Etsy store where she prints. She is an artist, and she is talented. And
we'll also link you to her site.
Ooh, yes, Megan. And she was telling me about how she'd been contacted by, it was somebody involved in, it was somebody who was producing a movie, I think. And they contacted her because it was a prop design person,
right.
And they were just looking for wall art for scenes in this house that was going to be in this movie, and they liked her stuff would work well with this, and they contacted her, and she's like, sure, yeah, you can buy my stuff. And I was all excited. I was like, ooh, look at where this could lead. Yep. You never know where. And she's like, Mom, it's okay if it doesn't go anywhere. Sometimes the thing is just a thing to be happy about. It doesn't have to become, there doesn't have to be a next step.
Right.
And it was a really good kind of reminder, that exactly what you're saying. You can do something just for the love of it. And then, of course, I had some time with my 5-year-old granddaughter this week, and she, you know what? We all need to just access our inner 5-year-old regularly, because she's walking around, she's diving in the pool, or not diving, but she's, splashing around in there. She's collecting rocks, she's making chalk drawings, and everything she does is the best, right? Because she loves it, and she's excited about it, and she hasn't had any of those things come up that we all learn where, oh, someone's better than me, so now I shouldn't collect rocks anymore. Because my rock's not the best.
But that's the challenge of society, right? Yeah. And what we've done. And if you do that, if you look at other cultures, and I can speak to some cultures in Africa a little bit, like we went, I think I've told this story before, but I went with my niece who has a foundation, and she does lots of really cool stuff, and she supported an orphanage, and one of the kids was talking about, we were there, and one of the kids was talking about, he had like little blisters on his feet, right? And so somebody there took off their socks and gave it to them. And so, and instead of being like, woo-hoo, I got socks, all of a sudden, all the kids that were there were all in a circle, and they were all deciding who got to wear the socks on what day, right? And so I think it kind of goes back to that, where it's like, somehow we get taught to be negative. Like, competitive is fun, because Roxanne and I work out, we've told you this with the virtual reality thing.
Well, I haven't started up yet since we got back from holidays, but you're back
but that's a little, like, that's fun competitive, and it drives both of us to do better. But like the competitive that makes you feel not good enough, it is a terrible byproduct of our too commercial, too materialistic society.
There's an individualistic society versus a communal society, which is a big part of it, right? We don't think communally; we think individually, which is just that's how our culture works. Yeah, and we think we are a capitalist society, right?
Yeah, and a little material where it's like it's like that old thing about keeping up with the Joneses, the neighbors, right? Like, and the thing is, it gets ingrained. Sometimes I think through TV and movies and the things like and all the commercials and stuff you see, and then there's a part of it when you realize that I can remember I used to live in a little float home. And I was at that point single, and I had this great old rescue dog, and I can remember.
Was that Sassy?
No, that was Jackson. So he was way back, okay. Yeah. But I can remember somebody saying to me, "Oh, this is really cool." Blah blah blah. Like, what's your dream house? And it was kind of like, I live on a float home in Vancouver, right? Like, I get the rain, I hear the rain on the water. I have a goose that walks me up the dock, right? We have seals. Right,
in windy weather.
Yeah, really moved in windy weather. But it was one of those, when they said it, I was kind of, because coming from Toronto, we didn't have float homes, right? And so coming from Toronto, it was like, I get to do this. And when somebody said it, it was like, and it made me realize how much we all think about what's next for me.
They assumed that this was not your dream home, which is a really interesting assumption. Yeah, right. Like, why?
Well, and that we always have to be looking to achieve more, right?
Yeah.
Like, I also had somebody, so I've driven a Jeep since I was 16 years old, pretty much. And
not the same Jeep.
Not the same Jeep. Although it would be really good if I had the same Jeep and it was in good shape. It'd be worth, But I also
had a 12-year-old vehicle.
For a 12-year-old vehicle, that's right. See, but thank you. But I had somebody say to me, "So if you won the lottery, what would you buy?" And it's like, I'm a Jeep girl, right? Like, it's like, I got my dream vehicle. Right.
But let me just say, you're going to buy a Jeep that's got a backup camera and automatic.
Okay. Now,
what do I have that you want?
The Jeep Wrangler is maybe not my dream vehicle anymore, because getting in and out of it is getting a little harder.
Oh, but it does hold a lot of Costco stuff.
It does hold a lot of and plants.
Pretty cool.
Yep. And I'm going to sneeze, so you have to talk.
Okay. We have been to. We've started going on Costco runs together, and the first time we went,
it's a problem.
The first time we went,
she's the problem.
I'm not the problem. I am not the problem at all. We each get our own cart, and we get into Costco and we separate. It's like,
we just text, "Where are you?"
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. Here's these.
Or I found these bowls.
I don't need 6 bowls. Do you want 3 bowls?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So it turns out our kitchens are getting more and more.
We have a lot of bowls.
We have a lot of the same stuff, but we'll meet up in the cheese aisle, which is a very dangerous aisle.
The cheese aisle is where we have our best conversations.
So at that point, I've got my fake Parmesan Kraft cheese that I buy, that my poor son-in-law Levi just shakes his head at. I've got my what else do I buy? Toothpaste, a few things, and I get into the cheese aisle with Ruth, and her cart is like, and she says,
"Paul, if you're listening, it's not true.
Look at this cheese. This is the best cheese, and look at the." And I'm like, "Well, I have to have one too," and then I get one.
She's an easy mark.
And then we get into this next aisle, and she's like, "Oh, have you tried these? These are amazing." And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to eat them at your house, so I better get one too." So I throw that in, and then all of a sudden my cart is like, and we get out to the car, a Jeep. She's in the driver's seat. I'm in the passenger seat. She's got the back seats folded down, and that car, you can't see out the back window.
It's like Tetris.
That was the first trip. It was an eye opener. I'm like, I'm always going shopping with you. This is fun.
But there are some magical things, right?
I go with my husband, and he's like, "We don't need that. We still have 1 dental floss container in the house. We don't need 3 more." I'm like, but
there's a reason And I'm not sure what came first. We're still married, or me and Paul don't shop together. It's related.
It is related, yeah. It's not,
but it is.
My husband would go to Costco on his own. Oh, it's the bug. What is happening?
She just wants to fling her beautiful hair.
Fling my hair. But he'll go and he'll be like, oh, I'm going to pop into Costco after work because he's all excited about the self-check aisle. As long as you have less than whatever the number of items is. So he never wants to go with a full cart.
Well, and
therefore that is just not
it
his
would make
game.
His head explode.
Yeah, it would.
But also, he's really good at, like, I need this one item, and he doesn't get distracted. No. I go into Costco with a list, and by the end of it, I've got hardly anything on my list. But I found all these other magical things, man.
The list is a guideline. It's just a guideline.
See, so she acts like I'm the problem. She is the freaking problem, man.
I am, I don't know, codependency? Is that a word? It means something? I don't know what that means.
Easily influenced, man.
But it's a good thing that neither one of us is criminally minded. I'm just going to say that.
That's fair.
Although, Thelma and Louise has come up more than once in conversation.
Many times, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's next? Of interesting things.
Okay, let's just go back for 1 second to the pizza oven, because we're getting better at it. And learning how it works. And
well, you've learned to light it by your...
That's a whole adventure, though, man. The little igniter isn't that good.
They never work. Just
so you have to put the
lighter in. One person on one end with the thing, the clicky thing, and then you got another person on this end with the flame.
So we've got one with the lighter, and we've got one with the knob that does it all. Except that knob has to stay pushed in. So I
can't believe you can do it without me. I can't believe you can do it without me.
It's not an attractive moment, let me tell you.
What are you doing?
You have to have, like, you're leaning like this to put the lighter in it, and then you're leaning here, and you can't have the thing move, so because you got to push it in. So there's a whole. It looks like I'm.
And you still have your eyebrows.
It looks like I'm like a monkey chasing an elephant or something, man. It's ridiculous. But we are learning new pizza things. We're learning different doughs, because doughs behave differently under open flame, right? Like in a pizza oven, they behave, and we're learning about. So we put on, and we did it. You know, we did this. We put like a pistachios on the top, like the recipe told us. Saying, and we put them on, and the pistachios, of course, they burned.
They turned to little pieces of lava.
Yeah.
It was not good.
But we just scraped them off and ate it.
And then it was fine.
Yeah.
But that's where, so in I think our favorite one that we did a dough with olive oil and some cheese, and then we folded it.
Oh, that was the sandwich?
That was the sandwich.
Yeah.
So it was a piece of crust, but we folded it over and then threw it in the oven and flashed it for 90 seconds or whatever it was. And then pulled it out, and then you kind of peel the fold back.
Because it's all cheesy now.
And you stuff it full of mortadella and pistachios. Arugula. And it was fantastic.
It was very good.
So the meat was not cooked. I mean, the meat is not really
bologna.
Meated. It's bologna. And the pistachios don't need to be cooked. So they weren't burned.
No.
And the arugula, of course,
gave a good, nice
So it was fantastic. So as a pizza, I think then... Because I would love to try actually cooking the mortadella, see if it gets maybe crispy or something, and then throw the pistachios
on top
after.
Or even put the pistachios on and put it back in for 2 seconds.
Just like
to warm them.
Yeah, just to warm them.
No, that's just it.
Yeah. So
but
we're learning.
And we are learning, and it's really fun. But it does go back to that, you know. I'm trying to think. It was somebody who said it was on one of those sites like where I got the carrot and the woman who's now a firefighter on a train.
Firefighter.
She was. Yeah, that's what she was training to be. A steam engine firefighter.
Oh, I didn't know she was a firefighter too.
Yeah. No, that's what she's doing on the steam engine.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's one of those where they said, you know, are you engaged? And what they meant was, are you curious? Not just are you engaging, are you the one being interesting, but are you interested? And I think that's part of it, is because when you're interested, and honestly, there's also a quote from, I'm going to forget who it's from now.
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso was a good quote. But there's a quote from somebody who says, either you see everything as a miracle or you see nothing as a miracle, right? And I think it was like somebody like Einstein, or like it was somebody like that, right? We'll figure that out.
That's a good one. Well, and Ted Lasso's quote is, be curious, not judgmental.
No, and that's
right?
exactly it. But also, like you were talking about your granddaughter Soline, like if you just take the curiosity of a 5-year-old, like so we have wildflower seeds that we put in, and then my sister sent us more, so we're gonna have wildflowers everywhere. And now every time I come out, I look to see how they've grown, right? And it's a delight. We should do that thing. Did you guys have Romper Room?
Romper Room, I remember Romper Room.
Where she said, I see Jacob and I see Alice and I used to wait, and of course Ruth is like an old Jewish lady's name, so I never got it, and then once in a while she would say Ruth, right?
My heart breaks for your little 5-year-old self.
I know, right?
Right.
It's like, and then people call you Ruthie, and it's like, all I can think about is Dr. Ruth, the sex doctor, right?
The sex doctor. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm going to call you Ruthie forever now.
It's like one of those things,
I have forgotten about her.
Yep.
Oh,
okay.
That's funny.
Okay, so I actually have one that's a little more serious, but not really serious. But I was reading a thing, and they were talking about the best outcome of a disagreement isn't to get a person to agree with you. It's to get both of you to be able to say, you know what, that's not my thing, but I see where you're coming from. Because you're not going to agree with everybody about everything. So if you take this approach to like, okay, not how I would do it, not what I would see it that way, but I see where you're coming from, is probably the optimal way. And I'm not talking about human rights or civil rights or anything. That's a whole other thing. Like that's black and white to me, right? Like everybody deserves human rights. I'm not going to see where you're coming from if you don't want everybody to have the same rights as you. Yeah. But like, if you're talking about something, of course, I'm not going to say that about salmon either, because I do see where you're coming from for salmon, because you like it.
I love salmon, and I can tolerate Chardonnay with salmon. She hates salmon.
Both.
And cannot drink Chardonnay, period.
Unfortunately, if there was Chardonnay, I would have to say, could I please have water?
I've
tried so
is a
tragedy.
hard. We're gonna work on that.
No, and she keeps making all of her freaking heroines, protagonists, whatever the heck you call them in your world. She keeps making them drink Chardonnay, and I think she's doing it to torture me.
Only one drank Chardonnay. I'll make the next one.
The one that you wrote when you knew me. Just saying.
Yeah.
So she had already written all the other books before she knew me, so that's it. But as soon as she gets to know me, she writes one where the person drinks the thing that I think is poison.
It's not poison. It's not poison. You just need to find one that's not oaked at all, and it's aged in cement eggs.
Cement eggs.
It's what they call them.
Do you what food do you not like?
What food do I not like? Oh, you're going to torture me here now, aren't you, with something?
I'm just going to say, so we just need to find that blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because, like, I promise I've tried. Like, salmon, I've tried so hard.
You've tried really hard with salmon.
I even make salmon for Paul.
You do. Like, you're really... I don't... Well, I mean, if there's some... So, I'm not a big... What am I not a big fan of? Pork chops, okay? I don't hate them. I just will never buy pork chops.
Right.
I love a good pork roast. Pork roast is delicious. I love ribs. It's not that I don't eat pork. Pork chops to me are dry and boring. I just will never make them. My husband loves them. I never buy them. I will never make them. If he buys them and he makes them, I will eat them. That's
right.
fine. But I just won't make them, because why? Life's short, and there's also many other things to eat.
Right.
You know? So, but yeah, food that I really hate, I'd have to... I know there are some.
Sardines.
I love sardines.
I don't know how we're friends, man.
Anchovies. Oh, anchovies on pizza.
See, I just didn't get the fish taste bud.
I love fish.
I like fish and chips because it's battered and fried. But
anchovies are so salty, though.
They're salty. They're fishy.
They're salty.
I tried so. I was at my friend Carrie's house with her parents, who are real foodies, and we went one night to a Spanish restaurant, and I was like, I'm gonna eat, and I'm gonna try to remember if it's sardines or anchovies. And we went to this, like, a tapas restaurant, and one of those two is a big thing in tapas, and I was like, I'm gonna try them all, like them, because I like Spanish tapas. Blah blah blah. They're, oh my God, they taste like dirty underwear. They're awful.
Dirty underwear.
Not that I know what that tastes like, but what I imagine it tastes like. Okay, so So the best outcome of a disagreement, because I've been thinking about this a lot, because the world feels like it's in a lot of disagreement. Mm-hmm. And so what if we could just say, so then the other thing I just saw, and it was actually about Trump supporters, but it was about, so the next time, don't say to somebody, how can you like this man? Just say, so I get how you like this person. Mm-hmm. He represents your values, and he has brought up all the things you wish you could say and didn't. And I thought, so that's the thing to me, is that especially for those who like the cruelty of him, is then they have to own the cruelty, right? And it's a little bit like that. Like, it's okay to say somebody, I get where you're coming from. But for some of it, like if somebody was like, yeah, I don't like the noise in the neighborhood or something, I'd be like, oh, I get where you're coming from. So having people having fun is irritating to you unless you're a part of it. Right, so there's also a little passive-aggressive thing you could be in there, right? You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, then you need to own this, right?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like the passive-aggressive behavior is a bit of a trigger for me. Anything that feels that way, because there's
stuff.
Yeah, I've got a lot of sort of stuff I'm working through about that. But I love what you said about owning it.
You gotta own it, man.
Asking. Because I absolutely agree with that. So if you're upset about something, and what I think happens a lot of times is people are upset about something and they don't understand why they're upset.
Yep.
And this goes back to something I hear regularly from my therapist from forever ago, from different therapists.
Oh God, he scared me.
The idea of it's more important to know what you want than it is to get what you want.
Right.
And own your feelings.
Yeah.
Understand your feelings. Recognize figure out what it is you're feeling, and then own it.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the noise of children, then just don't say, "Oh, I love children. I love children." Shut up. You jerks go. Just own it and say, "Yeah, you know what? The chaos. I have a hard time with chaos."
Yeah, like,
or whatever it is.
And the thing is,
don't pretend.
But that's exactly it. So it's one of those, and it is exactly where it's like, oh, there goes Scruffy. Maybe Paul. So we'll see. Paul. But it's one of the things where you got to own it, and even if it's a negative, like, and I've started since you and I've been talking, because I didn't realize anybody else in the world was a weirdo introvert like me, right? But
I'm
now,
here for you, baby.
But now it's okay to say, that's a lot of people for me, right? Here comes Paul, and he's got Paul. Thai food, which is really great.
He's got food.
Yes, but yes. Oh look, we're only. What time did we start?
Oh, about an hour ago.
Oh, okay, it's only been an hour. It's not been longer.
Here?
Do you want to say hello, Paul? You want to put your face in? See, he's here.
He's here. Look at him. He's going to say hi.
Hi.
There's Paul.
Ray might
Paul
be
comes
napping.
bearing foods.
Yes.
The hockey game started.
Oh, okay. He might be up soon. Okay. But it is, own it, because I love kids for limited periods of time, right? Like, and I really love them. I usually have toys for them because I get to relive my childhood.
You're really good at that.
But it's also like in small doses, and some of it is like, there are times when we have grown-up parties, and if people want to bring their kids, they can't, right? Because people behave differently, and also, if you're having the party and there are kids there, without thinking about it, I think, because I understand it, sometimes the adults forget they have kids, and then I end up managing them, right?
Yep. And so that's really funny, because I did not like babysitting. I did it because I needed to make money, but I did not like babysitting. I always knew I wanted to have kids, but that is very clearly distinct from liking all kids, because the way I see it, kids are just people, and I don't like all people. In fact, most people I don't like.
She likes me.
Kind of a general. I come from a place of, I don't like you, and then, oh, okay, now I like you. So
she does the nope first.
Nope. I got it. Oh. But with kids, it's like, oh, I like my own kids. Oh, I like my own kids a lot. Other kids, why? You're irritating and dirty and very noisy, and you break things.
And you have a frog in your pocket.
Yes. Also, you might be a boy. I had girls, and now I have 2 grandsons. So talk
that's
about
funny
learning new things.
Yeah,
that's really
funny.
But yeah, like so.
But doesn't mean you don't like kids. Like, but that's just it. Like,
yeah.
And that's why we have for the most part, because we don't have kids, right? And I mean, if your grandkids were coming, I certainly would like invite. We have Paul and I have a niece who's 7. I'd invite her up, right? When our friend Julie across the street has her grandchild up, like that's different. Then
and I've seen how much they love coming here.
Oh
like,
my God, yeah, and I like other kids. I'm happy we have events here, but it goes back to it. It's like, but I own the fact that I like things a bit quieter and more controlled, right? But it doesn't mean like, because when we come over, when Abel's here, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because he's freaking hilarious.
He's a moving comedy act.
Yeah, he's really, and it's really funny because like he throws the ball for the dog and then he chases the ball. Like there's amusement value, man.
I have video of this kid from I think before he was 6 months old. I don't know, throwing a ball, and I took it deliberately because I'm like, this kid is going to be some kind of sports superstar. And I need to have evidence that this started early, because it started like I can't throw a ball that well. Nope. He's not even 2 yet.
No, he's pretty, but I think that's just it. And the other thing is, it's a little different when you talk about what's going on in the States and stuff, but freaking own it. Like just own the thing. And honestly, maybe it is something that I should have respected, isn't the word, but considered with my dad, because my dad had some views that I didn't like at all. But you know what? At least he owned them.
Did he?
Yeah.
That's good.
But all that did in my mind was make him a jerk about that. Not about everything, but about that.
Yeah.
But now when as having this conversation, at least he owned it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's something to be said for that.
Okay, so I think we're getting just over an hour. I was going to talk about the egg vending machine, but we'll do that next. Cliffhanger. Oh,
egg
vending machine. We'll talk to you about the Chilliwack egg vending machine.
What does that mean to you, an egg vending machine?
What does it mean to you?
I know what it means to me, but we're gonna show you. We're gonna do a field trip, and we'll have video.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
that would be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we grateful for? Okay, you got to be grateful for your freaking son's contract, man.
Yes. Okay. So I'm very grateful for this. Today I'm grateful for technology that works.
Sure. Woo-hoo.
Because yes, I got my copies notarized and sent off, and then they got their copies back to me. So I'm grateful that all worked.
That's a good one.
What are you grateful for?
Well, I'm very grateful that we have Thai food from a great place called Taste of Thai, I think. But we'll put the link for anybody here. That it's really good Thai food, and it's this little Thai family here in Chilliwack, and they're really nice and very sweet. But the other thing I have to say I'm grateful for is this podcast and all of you out there. And I know we've said that before, but I was thinking about it today as I was getting ready and making some notes to talk about things and stuff like that. And I look forward to our podcasts.
I love it. This is a highlight.
It's really fun
doing this.
Yeah, it's really fun. And we've always said we'll do it, as long as it's fun. And so far it's just getting more fun.
It is getting more fun.
Yep.
So one of your gratefuls is this podcast.
Yep, and Thai food, because Thai food.
Thai food.
Yes.
Thai food.
Okay, so what do we want more of, Roxanne?
We want more happy hours, Ruthie. What do we want less of?
We want less bullshit.
Do we want less Ruthie and more Ruth?
No, I don't mind. But there are certain people in my life, I have to say, that just naturally started calling me Ruthie. Right? It's just natural. And so, like, my friend Diane, who was my sister's friend growing up, but we were little kids when I knew her, she calls me Ruthie. Right? There are people that call me Ruthie, but there are other people, like I have friends that I met in very, very serious professional situations, and somehow they end up calling me Ruthie, which is really funny. But I think it's because if I actually, in especially professional relationships, if I let a little bit of who I really am out, I'm more of a Ruthie than a Ruth, right? Well,
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was always Roxy in my family, always Roxy. And then at some point I became Roxanne, I guess in school, I don't really know. And then it was like, well, if you call me Roxy, well, who do you think you are?
Right?
How did you get into this?
Right, the little inner circle.
Yes, it feels like,
right.
So now I feel like I'm embracing my inner child again.
That's good. Maybe we have to change our logo to Ruthie and Roxanne. Ruthie and Roxy.
No. Oh yeah, Ruthie and Roxy.
Ruthie and Roxy. Okay.
Well, we're super grateful for you guys. Yeah. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening and showing up. And thank you for commenting and adding your... So we want to hear from you about...
everything.
All the things. We want to know what you're learning.
Also, yes, what you're learning. How you might put the helping people to own their opinions, and what you think the egg vending machine is here.
Yeah.
Plus the other thing, and we'll do another teaser. You're going to have to write this down now.
Good grief.
We're going to talk to you about maybe if you wanted to have viewing parties or bring people in, and then there might be some little gifties if you do that.
What's a viewing party, Ruth?
It's when people come over and they watch the podcast with you, and you make
so
comments.
It's a bunch of you guys sitting in your living room with a bottle of whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, or you could do it online.
Us. Oh, what do you mean?
They could do it online. They could put it up, and they could all just come on Zoom, and you could share the
Zoom
screen
party. Oh,
right?
So in real life or Zoom?
Yeah. So we'll talk more about that next one. But and they're all going to go crazy. So talk to you later. Okay.